Yellowstone's 6.6 million viewers have stirred up a shocking debate. Both sides of the political spectrum, right and left, want to claim this show as their own, and no one is ready to back out. But what values does Yellowstone actually support? Find out in this video. Yellowstone's authenticity. First, it's important to establish that it doesn't matter where you fall in the political spectrum when it comes to appreciating good and authentic TV. You know how it's just one of those things you keep aside in order to appreciate good art. Yellowstone is both of those things, even if, from the get-go, it has made clear that it leans conservatively, at least from the looks of it. And this is all part of its charm. Amidst an amazing cast, Kevin Costner steals the show as the formidable head of the Dutton family, which undoubtedly and undeniably gives the entire series an authentic aura. For instance, do you remember Costner's scene from Season 1 where he encounters a group of Asian tourists? John Dutton III comes across a group of Asian tourists on his land, and his response is a reflection of the show's unapologetic take on certain values. He chases them away with a gun, and while doing so gives a nod to capitalism over collective land ownership. Then how can we forget that the series literally centers around the Dutton family and their large and mighty ranch empire in Montana? Montana is a red state at heart. But here's the real deal. When we say that Yellowstone is being authentic, we don't just mean it in the ways characters are portrayed or different themes are explored. Yes, there's a lot of woke TV out there with its own fan base, but don't you agree that it all often feels forced? We can give credit to that to the cancel culture. Take the Velma series, for example. Everyone can agree that it comes off as fake or unnatural. The point we're trying to make here is that woke shows often toss in woke elements just to avoid getting caught in the crosshairs of cancel culture. You can agree with this or not, but we can all come together to say that Yellowstone does take a completely different route. It doesn't play the game of ticking woke boxes just to play safe. It's bold, audacious, and in your face with all its authentic elements. In Yellowstone, themes and characters are presented just as they are. There are no gimmicks or forced inclusivity. It's so bold that at certain points it feels that the creators don't care whether you like it or not. It's a simple approach. You either take it or leave it. And if ratings and acclamations are any barometer of its popularity, it looks like audiences are taking it. The only reason is that the authenticity of the shows has clearly resonated with the viewers, which is what makes it stand out in the TV landscape. However, the looming question still remains. Is it woke or is it not? A never-ending debate. The answer to this question is not quite so straightforward. The clash between Yellowstone's unmistakable red state visuals, think handguns, horses, and big hats, and its left-leaning messages have confused critics and viewers since its 2018 debut. We have had debates on Reddit and all the cultural platforms. The atmosphere has been nothing short of intense. There have been countless articles written to pin down where exactly Sheridan's creation falls on the political spectrum. Unsurprisingly, there's no consensus. Now, this ongoing debate flared up recently when an IndieWire critic claimed that the latest spin-off, 1923, which followed the miniseries 1883, isn't just progressive, it's the embodiment of critical race theory, which you can credit to its unflinching portrayal of the indigenous boarding school system. This started the ultimate critics' back and forth on the issue. Shortly afterwards, the New York Times with Do That responded to this, saying that IndieWire had got it all wrong. It's a bold claim, but according to the New York Times, Sheridan is actually crafting conservative content that squarely opposes blue state outsiders. For viewers like Do That, the Yellowstone universe is a grand traditionalist love story. It offers the ranch's masculine freedom as a refreshing alternative to the stifling bustle of the city. Both of these views encapsulate both sides of the debate, and this debate rages on to add another layer to the complex narrative of Yellowstone's political identity. It's a wild west of opinions, but if there's anyone who can sort this debate out for us, it's Sheridan. It's not a red show. It's true that Yellowstone has become a fan favorite in the conservative circles. It's hailed as a refreshing break from the predictable and often overly cautious landscape of TV that tends to lean on wokeness to avoid controversies. This show's rugged setting, character inclinations, and themes do actually make a compelling case for its label as a red show. It's hard to disagree with this point of view in all honesty, don't you think? However, the show's creator, Taylor Sheridan, doesn't agree with this characterization. In fact, he wants nothing to do with these conservative labels. He has publicly distanced himself from the notion that Yellowstone is a red show. Even more, he finds this entire notion laughable. During interviews, Sheridan has pointed to the themes and character traits in the series that make his case. The pointed out themes don't align with any of the mainstream conservative values. In November 2022, Sheridan did an interview that specifically addressed these accusations that Yellowstone caters to Republicans. He expressed that the show's narrative, which talks about the displacement of Native Americans, the way Native American women were treated, capitalism, and gentrification, is not a red state show. It's quite evident that he sees his work as an ongoing critique of structural racism, economic status quo, and misogyny, which are hardly the usual talking points for Republicans. So, what's the consensus? Yellowstone offers something to both sides. We think it's a bit of an agree to disagree situation here, but the resolution to this debate is quite easy. Sheridan's Yellowstone brings something that's sorely lacking in both the mainstream American left and right. It brings forth a positive idea of human purpose intricately linked to a clear concept of authority. Yes, Sheridan's protagonists are maybe anti-heroes and at times unethical, but they're rarely confused about what they want to do. This clarity is the attractive point of Taylor's shows. The protagonist always knows their place in the world and the show, and their responsibilities to the communities are never in doubt. Yes, it is painful to watch occasionally, but that's the appeal of it. That's what makes it so popular. It doesn't matter whether it's the Duttons or the indigenous characters in the shows. Their meaningful sources of authority and obligations come down to a few key elements: the land, family, and tribe. Characters do falter in fulfilling these responsibilities and the authority these duties are derived from, but they are never in doubt. In simple terms, the essence of Yellowstone's widespread appeal might actually lie in its celebration of authority. Despite the many differences between the American left and right, both these share a similar concept of freedom, which we call negative liberty, as philosopher Isaiah Berlin has highlighted. Negative liberty, in its basic form, is freedom that comes from the absence of constraints on one's behavior. This divergence between Democrats and Republicans most often revolves around these constraints rather than a fundamental disagreement on the concept of freedom itself. Hence, Yellowstone has a piece to offer both of these sides. But the real question at the end of the day is, does any of this matter? It doesn't matter what Yellowstone is. Before Yellowstone featured on our screens and became a resounding success, its storyline would rarely have been seen as a winner. Why? Regardless of how controversial a TV show's content is, the most popular shows actually tend to steer clear of political themes, except if they specifically cater to the liberal audience. Yes, there are a few anomalies like Netflix's The Ranch, which stood out as one of the most distinctly conservative-leaning sitcoms. However, despite receiving only a 66% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, the show did find itself among the top 10 most popular series on Netflix. The highlights that, despite the prevailing liberal bias in many TV shows, audience preferences don't always align. We should only always look at popularity as the litmus test. If it stands, then it stands. There are no two ways about it. Here's one way to see it. The imperfect nature of characters deviating from traditional conservatism is actually a reflection of how complex human nature is. Whatever the apparent polarization is within the political spectrum, many people hold views that don't neatly fit into boxes of either extreme. Instead of persistently trying to fit the show into a specific classification of ours or theirs, maybe we should set aside all this debate and just appreciate it for what it truly is: an outstanding show, no matter which way you approach it. What do you think? Is this debate a reasonable one? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with all the Yellowstone gossip.